Steam has always been one of the best places to play independent games, or really just about any game in general. The problem, however, is that with hundreds of games releasing into Steam on a monthly basis, some games unfortunately get drowned in a very crowded game space, and that's something that I want to tackle today. So today we are going to take a look at the top 12 best hidden gems that have been overlooked on Steam, and I do think I have some great games here that you're going to want to go check out. Now do keep in mind that this list is only my opinion, and with hidden gems in specific, there is always going to be plenty of games that are unfortunately overlooked. So share some of your favorite hidden gems in the comments below so we can all discover those games as well. With that said though, let's get right into the list. To start off this list, I have Rogue Singularity, a brutally difficult 3D platformer. Just as the name implies, this is a roguelike game, so if you die, you will have to restart the entire game, and I'm not really usually a fan of these type of games, but Rogue Singularity handles this very well. You do have 5 lives to complete the game, and each level is procedurally generated, which keeps it from becoming stale. This is an excellent 3D platformer for those who are looking for a challenge. Next up, I have Monster Crown, a game that has brought back a ton of nostalgic memories to when I was a kid playing the old Pokemon games. Now, I did receive a review code for this game, but I'm glad I did because I'm not sure I would have ever heard of this game otherwise. Monster Crown has completely went under the radar, and I don't think it should be. While yes, it is very similar to the original Pokemon games and Dragon Quest monsters, it also has its own unique twists, such as breeding, where you basically fuse monsters together. It also offers a more mature world and can even be challenging. With that said, this is the only game on the list that is an early access title, but I do think it's worth checking out for fans of these type of games. If anything, add it to your wish list for when it fully releases, which is apparently planned to be soon. At number 10, I have The End is Nigh, and I'm actually shocked that this game has not gotten more attention than it has. It is a 2D platformer that plays very similar to Super Meat Boy, and that's for good reason. The End is Nigh is developed by the same creator behind Super Meat Boy, and once again will challenge you with precise platforming and dangerous obstacles. This is not just a great game either, but it's one of the best 2D platformers on the entire market, so if you're looking for a good, challenging 2D platformer with an odd sense of humor, then definitely go check out The End is Nigh. Ghost of a Tale is a very interesting game, in the sense that you really don't see many games like this anymore. It may be considered an action RPG, but with Ghost of a Tale, there is an emphasis on stealth gameplay. It's never really too over the top with this mechanic, but it does offer some very clever stealth-based sections, and for that matter, I think it has a very solid story with excellent writing among the characters. It even boasts about 15 to 20 hours of gameplay, and the fact that a small team of under 10 developers made this game with a 3D world is just incredible. Frankly, I would love to see more games like this made in the future, and I do think Ghost of a Tale is worth your time. Operencia is a game that really took me by surprise. It is a dungeon crawler turn-based RPG set in first-person view, and there are some drawbacks to this setup. It will throw off some new players because the way you travel in each dungeon is in a grid-based pattern, so you don't have complete control of your movement. With that said, each dungeon is so creative with cleverly built puzzles that can be very challenging at times that I could not help but be absorbed into the world. Then there's the combat, which is very well done if you like turn-based games. It never felt overly difficult but offered enough of a challenge to be fun. It even has an interesting story thanks to its characters and delivery by the voice actors. Metroidvania games have made a comeback in a big way in recent years, and I could not be more happy about this. Metroidvania games are actually some of my favorite games, but with there being so much competition in this genre, a few have slipped through the cracks. One such game is Timespinners, and right away I have to say, Timespinners has a beautiful art style. While it does have a retro art style kind of like the old Castlevania games, it was somehow spun into a more modern and pleasing tone. It doesn't just look good though, because it is very fun to play as well. It's a little bit more focused on combat than its puzzle elements, but it's always a joy to play, and it's held up by a solid story as well. If we're just talking about a game that looks absolutely stunning in motion, we got to talk about River City Girls. I understand not everybody likes pixel art, but for those who do, you really have to appreciate what they did with River City Girls. I would also go out on a limb and say that this is actually one of the best beat-em-up games of the last decade. It stands tall with some of the best in the genre, such as Castle Crashers and Streets of Rage 4. It's a nice blend of RPG mechanics with a beat-em-up game, and the combos in this game can really get ridiculous after a while as you upgrade abilities by paying for more moves. It also has a very wacky but entertaining story, and I have to say, I actually like this game so much that I still do play this one on occasion even though I've already beat it. It really is that good, and I cannot recommend River City Girls enough. Every once in a while there is a game that is so good, you have to wonder why more people are not talking about said game. Well, the Pedestrian is certainly one of those games with some of the most unique and interesting puzzle designs I've seen since Portal 2. The Pedestrian is a 2.5D puzzle platformer where you jump from sign to sign by reorganizing and reconnecting them. This seems like a simple mechanic, but it is brilliantly done and can be very challenging at times. If anything, I think the Pedestrian is one of the best puzzle games in recent years, and if you like those type of games, you need to do yourself a favor and check this game out. Here we have Superland, a 3D Metroidvania style game. The way the developers explain Superland is that it's a mix between Zelda, Portal, and Metroid. 3 legendary franchises, so that's setting the bar incredibly high. Well, Superland does pull it off, and I can see some similarities with all 3 of these games. Superland has a very well-crafted world to explore, some devious little puzzles, and even some combat thrown in, much like Metroid. I think the thing that really stands out to me in Superland, though, is the progression. That's one thing that I've always loved about both Zelda and Metroid, where you can access new locations by unlocking more abilities. There is always that sense of wonder when you see areas you can't access, and when you unlock a new ability to access that location, there is a sense of completion. To be completely honest, I think if this game was to release in the same era as both Zelda and Metroid, then just like those games, this would have become another legendary classic that gamers talk about to this day. When talking about hidden gems, Whoopo is always a game that immediately comes to my mind because it screams hidden gem. This is such a weird and quirky game with a very thought out and charming little world. The game is about a lazy Wum getting kicked out of his home for being too messy. After that, this little Wum sets forth to find a new home, but on his journey he runs into all kinds of new species and even hidden catastrophes. And see, when I explain it to you, it's kind of hard to understand why it's so good. It's not really a game that's easy to market, that's for sure. It plays like a Metroidvania, but there really is more of an emphasis on the world and puzzles around you. There is boss encounters that can be quite fun, but at the end of the day, there is something so engrossing, so fresh, and so charming about this game that I do think that it is one of the most overlooked games on the entire market. For years, fans have wanted a new classic Paper Mario game, and year after year, these fans are left disappointed. Well, that's until now, because Bug Fables is the classic Paper Mario game that you have been looking for. I would even go so far to say that Bug Fables is a better Paper Mario game than the Origami King, or at least when it comes to that classic formula. And right out of the gate, this is very obvious. Not just with the art style, but with how the combat in this game works. It is a turn-based game, and when you attack an enemy, you have to do a unique command in order to maximize the strength of your attack. You will gain more abilities as time goes on, you do have partners, and you even have medals to choose from to make your team more powerful. It's also quite challenging if you set it on hard difficulty, and even the story is interesting. It really takes me back to when I was a kid again, and I don't think I'm speaking just from nostalgia. I legitimately think that Bug Fables is a great turn-based RPG and something that you should check out regardless if you have played the old Paper Mario games or not. It is that good. And at the #1 spot, I have Crosscode, and this game truly is amazing. It does everything so incredibly well that I would say this is a must-play title. It is an action RPG and kind of reminds me of Secret of Mana with Zelda dungeons. If there was ever a game that really shows off how fun 2D combat can be in a top-down view, it would definitely be Crosscode. And my favorite thing about Zelda has always been its brilliantly made dungeons. Well, Crosscode does that very well with more thought-provoking puzzles the more you progress in this game. It even has a great story where you play as a real-life MMO avatar, so kind of like Ready Player One or Sword Art Online. They do a good job with the story here though, and that's the thing about Crosscode. Everything about this game is great. The puzzles, the combat, the story, the art style, and so much more. As I said, Crosscode is a must-play game that unfortunately has gone overlooked by many fans. So let's make that change and let's get the word out on how great Crosscode truly is. Anyways though, that's it for this episode, but if I forgot to mention any game that you think deserves to be on this list, make sure to let me know in the comments below. If you liked the video though, don't forget to hit the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you would like to support the channel on Patreon, thank you for helping make this content possible. Peace out.